What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Let's go over the conference championships from this past weekend in the NFL. In the AFC Championship, the Chiefs beat the Ravens 17-10. They move on to their fourth Super Bowl in the last 5 years and their second in a row. Of course, they won last year. This Chiefs team is incredible. Pat Mahomes is absolutely incredible. Despite not, coming into the playoffs kind of limping in, how much they've struggled on offense at times this year. That receiving core is not very good. The offensive line has not been great. But as long as you get Mahomes, you have a chance. To me, Patrick Mahomes is the new Tom Brady. Not saying he's better than Tom Brady. He obviously is not. Brady has the longevity and the 7 Super Bowls and the records and all that. But, Pat Mahomes is, for the next as many years as he's there, Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs will be in the AFC Championship every single year. He'll be in the Super Bowl quite often, and he'll win a bunch more. This is his 7th season in the league, 6 as the starter. First year he sat behind Alex Smith for every game besides the one game where that didn't mean anything. That's why Alex Smith didn't play. And every single year he's been in the AFC Championship. He's been in 4 Super Bowls. He's won 2, and then never got a chance for a third. Within 6 years as a starter, he has 6 conference championship appearances in a row, 4 AFC championships, 3 Super Bowls. At least 2, if not 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 league MVPs. I think he's been an All-Pro every year, so 6 All-Pros, or at least 5 All-Pros. It's gonna be we gotta start thinking about where he's ranked all time. You can definitely make the argument he was heading into this year. You can make the argument he was top 10. If he wins his third rank, he might be top 5 all time. You can make a case. I'm not sure I put him top 5 yet, but he'd be pretty damn close. I'd have to probably put him at least in the top 8 if he wins next Sunday. But yeah, Chiefs in the AFC title game. They go to the Super Bowl. Ravens fall short. Of course, they had the best record in football this year, 13-4. Lamar, he struggled in the playoffs. Now I'm starting to wonder whether he's ever going to win anything. I think he's a great player. I think he's a very good quarterback. What he can do with his legs is incredible. The only 2 quarterbacks I've seen do anything close or equal or maybe a little more they can do with his legs is Michael Vick and Cam Newton. I think when Lamar retires, he will be the greatest running quarterback of all time. I would say I would probably put him ahead of Cam Newton right now, just running-wise. And, it's tight with Michael Vick. I think when he retires, he will surpass Michael Vick in that aspect, if he hasn't already. But he's 2-4 in his career in the playoffs. He's been a starter for 6 years. He's 2-4 in the playoffs. Of those 6 games, only 2 games he even played well in. The first round game against Tennessee a couple of years ago, he played pretty well in. And the second round game against Houston in the division round this year, he played well in. Every other game, he struggled. In his first career game, he didn't play well. Now, obviously, he was a rookie. He only played 7 right career games, so I gave him a little pass there. But, then, against Tennessee, when they were the Super Bowl favorites and they lost in the second round to Tennessee a couple of years ago, he did not play well in that game. Yes, he had a lot of yards, but he also had 3 turnovers. A couple of years ago in that second round game against Buffalo, he did not play well at all. He was terrible against Kansas City this past weekend. Overall, he has not been good in the postseason. And I'm starting to think it's his style of play. I'm starting to think that. In the playoffs, you just need to have, that fastball. You gotta be able to, make those big throws. And, he doesn't have a bad arm. It's not horrible. I mean, he doesn't have an arm like Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen. He's not gonna be thrown for 4,500 plus yards every year. He's a guy who's only gonna be thrown for 3,500, 3,800 yards. But, he's also going to be, pretty, decently accurate. Going to be completing 66%, 67%, 68% of his passes. He'll throw 25, 28, 30 touchdowns. Won't have more than 7 or 8 interceptions. And, of course, he'll add 6, 7, 800 plus yards on the ground. And there are 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. In total, he's giving you well over 4,000 yards. He's giving you well over 30 touchdowns. He's not turning them over more than 8 times a season. He's a very good player. He's probably the best quarterback in the league this year. Going into next year, especially how bad the quarterback play was this year, it'll be hard to rank him worse than probably 3rd or 4th in the league heading into next year. Obviously, I'll do that rankings, in the summertime. In Lamar's first year, not his first year, his second year, he was MVP of the league because they let him run wild. He came up short in the playoff, but it was only his second year in the league. Then the next year, 2020, they made him into a pocket passer. And it didn't work. The first half of the year, the offense struggled, the team was struggling, Lamar was struggling. Second half of the year, they let him run wild, and Lamar was dominant, and the Ravens ended up playing really well, made the playoffs, and they won the playoff game. Stop making him into a pocket passer. I understand the concerns with he's a running quarterback, he takes too many hits. I understand you just gave him a huge contract. You just gave him a 5-year deal worth $260 million. You're paying him $52 million a year through 2027. And currently, he's, 27 years old right now? So that brings him to, he's 31? And you saw Cam Newton, who, 2015, that was his first pick overall in 2011. 2015 was MVP of the league. 2019 rolls around, and all of a sudden, his arm is gone. He goes, he's last year, he only played 2 games. His second to last year, in his first stint in Carolina, after he hurt his shoulder, in the midst of a career passing wise, he struggled, and they shut him down at the end of the year. Then he goes to the Patriots and was awful. Then Carolina brings him back out of desperation after Sam Darnold got hurt, and he looked god awful. And now he's out of the league. You saw Michael Vick, the end of Philly, just kind of break down. Didn't help that he missed a couple of years in between Atlanta and Philly because he was in jail, obviously. But at the end of the day, he got his mojo back in Philly, got a big contract, and all of a sudden at the end, he couldn't stay on the field. So I get the concerns. I get it, maybe they're worried, he's making $52 million a year for the next 4 years, and you want to make sure he at least gets through that contract, without, you having to worry about him going into every year only playing, 8, 9, 10 games. But he's not a pocket passer. Their game plan was stupid. Defense did their job. First half, they, were okay. They're also playing Pat Mahomes, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. Second half, they didn't give up a single point. They shut out the Chiefs in the second half. Their defense gave up 17 points to the Kansas City Chiefs, and none in the second half. So, Rams' game plan was just absolutely stupid. In the NFC Championship, 49ers beat the Lions 34-31, and it'll be Chiefs 49ers in the Super Bowl. A rematch of the Super Bowl from 2019, 4 or 5 years ago. 49ers actually had that great comeback. They were down 24-7 at the half, and they come roaring back in the second half. And 34-31. By the way, I don't understand Dan Campbell. I just don't. I don't understand that man. You're up 24-10. You're up 24-7 going in the first half, dominating. Look like you might be on your way to the Super Bowl for the first time, half a century? However long it's been. First time ever, actually. The 49ers come out in the second half, and you hold them to a field goal. Great. You have 4th and 2, or 4th and somewhat short, maybe 4th and 4, something like that, on the 28-yard line. You have a chance to get a field goal and go up 3 scores. If you're up 3 scores with, middle of the third quarter, the 49ers have to basically pitch a perfect game to beat you. They got to skip points on almost every drive, and they can't let up many points on defense. And to that point, they had only scored 10, and obviously the defense was already up 24. And we were only just past the half. We were only a little bit past the halfway point of the game. Kick the field goal. The 49ers are a team, they're so good. You can't if you give them life, they will come back and beat you. I don't care you're up, 17.5, you're still up 2 touchdowns. You felt comfortable. I don't understand. 49ers are a team, no matter what the score is, if you give them, a slightest slimmer of light, they will burn you. And that's what they did. Don't understand. And then, the game is tied. The 49ers come storming back. Score 17 unanswered and tie the game. They have all the momentum. Again, you have 4th and short. You have a chance for a field goal. And he goes for it again, doesn't get it. Why? Kick the field goal. I just don't get it. It makes no sense. You kick the field goal, you tie the game. Now at least you think, all right, 1 or 2 things are going to happen. You get a stop, now you have a chance to go up by a touchdown and probably win the game. Or if you give up a touchdown, you still have time to tie the game and probably get overtime. But now the 49ers go up by 3, they're just, oh yeah. Even if we don't score, we can still get a stop. If we get a field, they got to get a touchdown. They got to make the extra point. If we score a touchdown, we put it almost out of reach, which they ended up doing. I don't understand. Look, I like Campbell. He seems like a great guy. As a player, I'm sure any player would love to play for him. Seems like a great motivator. I like what he's trying to do and has done. I mean, he took the team from the pits of misery to the NFC Championship in 3 years. But just his decision-making has always been questionable to me. I said it in his first year. People were saying, oh, he had in a lot of close games because of a really good coach. I said, okay, I'm not blaming him for the team going 13-1, but the team was horrible that he was given. Horrible franchise. Let's pump the brakes. Yes, they were in a lot of close games, but, they lost a lot of those games for a reason. There's a reason they only had 3 wins. Then last year, when they were like 2-6, whatever it was, I was saying fire him. I'm saying this guy's a joke. Then they got hot. They ended up going like 7-2 the rest of the year or something. Almost made the playoffs. I'm like, you know what? His guys are really starting to buy in. I like what he's doing. But he's got to go and do it next year. He's got to go and make the playoffs. He came in this year and he won his division. He went all the way to the conference championship. He was a head coach in your finals for a reason. But again, the decision making against Dallas. I know the referees made a mistake on the whole offensive lineman eligible receiver thing. But still, once you got called back, you gotta kick the extra point and go to overtime. I got why he went for it the first time. Because Sealand had over 200 yards, and Brandon Aubrey hadn't missed a field goal all year. He had made a couple in that game. At that point, take the extra point, go to overtime, and you take your chances. Your defense had played pretty well. Outside of Sealand torching you, they had only given up 20 points. Also, your offense has only scored, 20 themselves. And then in this game, look, they lost by 3 and they passed up 2 field goals. That would have been 6 points. Obviously, making a 3-score game would have made it different. You take the field to tie it. It's a little different for 49ers have the both of the game tied up by 3. You never know what could happen, but take the field goal, my guy. Take the field goal. So, Chiefs 49ers will be in the Super Bowl. We'll talk about the Super Bowl a little more as it gets a little closer. Let's talk about the NBA standings. Eastern Conference, Boston Celtics still leading, 36-11. You have Milwaukee in second at 32-15, and third is Philly at 29-16. NBA is looking into Joel Embiid not playing, going from being healthy to questionable out in 15 minutes before the game against Denver. But Joel Embiid can only miss 5 or 6 more games, or otherwise he won't be eligible for the MVP or any award for the NBA's new role. And he's right now the favorite to win MVP if he's healthy. You have a Knicks 30-17. Forfeit Julius Randle's going to miss a few weeks with that shoulder injury. He's got dislocated shoulder. It's a tough loss for the Knicks, but they blew out the Hornets last night. It's the Hornets, so even though they didn't have OG Anunoby, I'm not celebrate too hard because the Hornets are really bad. But Knicks have won 7 games in a row. They've won 13-15 since getting OG Anunoby. They've been playing phenomenal basketball. They're 30-17 on the year, 4th in the Eastern Conference. You got Cleveland at 5th. 20-16. Cleveland's been playing really well. They've had a lot of injuries this year. Darius Garland, their star point guard, has been out the last 6 weeks with a fractured jaw, but he's expected to come back tomorrow. And your big man, Evan Mobley, who's obviously a great defender, I think could be a star in a couple of years. He was out for a while. We just got him back. They've been excellent defensively. They could be a sleeper team in the East. If the Knicks and Cavs play in the first round again, that's going to be a phenomenal series. I know last year the Knicks obviously won. They won in 5 games. It was a shorter series. That was a series a lot of people thought could be a really good series. Could go 7 games. This year might be what we thought we were getting out of a series last year, and even better because the Knicks are a lot better than they were last year. Cleveland is, I think, might be better than they were last year. They're playing a little bit better now than they finished last year, I think. And that should be a phenomenal series if those 2 teams meet in the playoffs. I'm hoping the Knicks move up a little bit, and I do think they will. So I'm not sure if it's going to happen. Being said, Cleveland might move up as well, so I don't know. In 6th is Indiana, 27-20. The first playing team is Miami. Miami is really struggling. They have lost 7 straight games. They are now tied before Orlando for the first play-in spot right now. So they're really struggling. I think one problem is Terry Rozier in their game last night against Phoenix he had 21 points, so he played pretty well. But his first 3 games, he was absolutely horrible. He really struggled in his first 3 games. Obviously, he's still getting acclimated, but he's a guy. He was averaging 22 points a game in Charlotte. He's always been the guy that when he's gotten consistent playing time, can give you 20 plus points and 5 assists. Is a pretty good shooter, especially from the mid range. I said I like the trade. He's an upgrade over Kyle Lowry, and then only other thing you give up is the 1 future draft pick. So who cares? It was a good move, but I think they're expecting him to come in and be that third option, that outside threat, because you really only got floor space. You already have is Tyler Hero. Shooting Bar is a great player, but he's not a 3-point shooter. Bam Adebayo is a really good player, but he's not a 3-point shooter. Caleb Martin isn't anything special, and can't really think of anyone else who's really scary anyway. Kevin Love doesn't hit threes like he used to when he was in his prime in Minnesota and Cleveland. She needed another source person, another scorer for sure. I'm probably still gonna need somebody else, and I thought that would at least help the problem in Terry Rozier. They still didn't solve it, but it would help it, and to this point, it just hasn't, because outside of the last game against Phoenix where he played pretty well, the first 3 games he played were not good. Obviously, he's only played 4 games, but he that hasn't helped, and they're just struggling, and they gotta change something because what they're throwing out there isn't working. I think they don't have the same depth they've had in past years. Remember, in the offseason, you lose Gabe Vincent, who obviously hasn't played well for the Lakers. Now he's hurt, but he was your best point guard last year. Played very well in the playoffs. You don't have him anymore. You lose Max Strus, which I wasn't as upset about because I think Cleveland overpaid him. But he was a guy who was a helpful guy off the bench last year. Was very good in the playoffs overall. You don't have him anymore. And that right now your lineup, you're looking at Rozier, Lowry, I would say Butler, Jaquez, and Adebayo. To me, Bam's a power forward. He's not a center. He's a power forward. They just don't have another center really that deserves any sort of minutes. So you have to play him at the 5. And looking at their depth, there's nothing there outside of Caleb Martin. There just isn't really anything there. To me, they need to make another move because right now they're in danger. Like I don't see any way they fall into the play-in because you look at the first 5 teams out. Atlanta right now is 4.5 games behind them, and they're probably going to trade Dejounte Murray, who's their second best player. So they're only going to get worse. Toronto is only going to get worse because obviously they're playing with a bunch of very inexperienced guys. Obviously, they traded away Siakam and Elvis. So they're only going to get worse. Charlotte is god-awful. Washington's obviously god-awful. Detroit's historically bad. So there's no way they drop out of the play-in, but they're in danger of being like the 8 or 9 spot and having to beat I'd still probably take it to come out the play-in. Even if they were the 9, right? So they play probably Brooklyn. All right, they'll beat Brooklyn, and they play either Orlando or Chicago. They can win that game. But still, I know they beat the Celtics last year in the conference finals. But if they play them in the first round, I don't see any way they beat that team, or if the series is even close. I think the Knicks would beat them. They might put a little bit more of a fight, but I think the Knicks would beat them. Milwaukee to me is a little further, so maybe they could beat Milwaukee. Maybe. They did it last year. Milwaukee is probably the same as they were last year, if not worse. But problem is, I think Miami's a little bit worse than they were last year. Maybe Philly. Even Philly, I think could beat them. I think that would be a good series. That series could be actually a 7-game series, but I think Philly would beat them in the first round. I think Cleveland beats them. But, the way things are turning out, that won't be a matchup in the first round, so something's got to change in Miami. But you have Orlando is also 24 and 23. You have Chicago at 22 and 25. Then Brooklyn at 19 and 27. Tells you how bad the East is. That's our 8 games under 500, and they're in the play-in. Team is so bad. And you have Atlanta, who's actually tied with Brooklyn for the last play-in spot. You have Toronto's 3 games out, and then obviously Charlotte, Washington, Detroit all absolutely suck. In the Western Conference, in first is Minnesota. They're back in first in the conference, 33-14. Second is Denver at 33-15. Then you have Oklahoma City at 32-15 in third. In fourth was the Clippers at 30-15. They've been playing really well. Sacramento's in fifth at 27-18. Phoenix is in sixth at 27-20. They've been playing pretty well in the play-in. The first playing team is Dallas at 26-21. Second playing team is New Orleans. They're at 26-21 as well. It's kind of a weird year to me, New Orleans. Like, on paper, like, that's the team I said, if they're healthy, they're probably top 3 in the West. And they've been healthy, but they're the 8th spot. Like, Zion's always been a guy when he's healthy, he's giving you 28 and 8 every night. But he's never healthy. And he's been healthy for the most part, but he's not playing that well. It's weird. The Lakers are a 9 spot. They're at 500 right now. They're just not that good. They cannot shoot. They're just not very good. LeBron is still a very good player, but not quite as good. Anthony Davis is still great, but not quite as good. The injuries have taken a toll. And just D'Lo overall hasn't been very good. Gabe Vincent's hurt. Reeves has been fine. Hachimura's been fine. Other than that, there's really nobody that's even somewhat of a threat. They're trying to make a big trade. I don't know what piece there we have to do it. And then you have Utah. It's also tied with the Lakers. So they're also 500. You have the Rockets are a game out of the play-in. You have Golden State is now 2 games out of the play-in. They need to blow up my team. It's just time. You have Memphis, obviously having one of those years. They got a lot of injuries. They're 5.5 games out of the play-in. And then Portland and San Antonio absolutely suck. All right, so Adam Silver got an extension through 2030. NBA commissioner will be sticking around for another 6 years. Overall, I think he's done a pretty good job. Certain things he hasn't handled well, but overall, I think he's probably the best commissioner out of the 4, which isn't saying much because Rob Manfred in baseball is horrible. Gary Bettman in the NHL is, not great. He's gotten a lot of flack recently for things he's done. Even Roger Goodell, he's bringing a lot of ratings, but other than that, hasn't really helped me much. His officiating issue, he just refuses to address, which I don't understand. So he's probably the best commissioner out of the 4. On to the NHL standings. In the East, you have the Boston Bruins at 71 points. They're in first. Florida is in second with 66. They've been playing really well. The Rangers are in third with 63. They've been slumping a little bit, but they won their last game 5-2. So against Ottawa, who sucks, but they did win. Carolina's in fourth with 61. Tampa's in fifth with 59. Toronto's in sixth with 58. Detroit's in seventh with 57. And eighth is Philadelphia with 56. They've been struggling a little bit. They've lost 5 in a row. Islanders right now are 4 points out. So obviously they've made a coaching change. Yeah, Pittsburgh is 5 points out. That team's just getting old. The Devils also 5 points out. They've been struggling. They got a lot of injuries right now. Yeah, the Capitals are also 5 points out. And then Buffalo, Montreal, Ottawa, and Columbus round out the Eastern Conference. In the Western Conference, the Vancouver Canucks, 71 points. They have had a phenomenal year. Came out of nowhere. Colorado is in second with 67. Dallas is in third with 66. You have Vegas in fourth with 64. Edmonton in fifth with 59. They've won 16 games in a row. One of the longest winning streaks in NHL history. 16 straight wins for Edmonton, who a while back were the second worst team in the West, one of the worst teams in the league. They fired the coach. They bring in Chris Knobloch, the HR coach from the Rangers, and he's done a really good job. They've completely turned things around. They are currently 6th in the West. Kings are in 7th with 54. Blues also have 54, but they played one more game than the Kings. Nashville also has 54, but they've played one more game. So there was 2 more than LA. If Seattle is 2 points out, Seattle's had a weird year. Got to a horrible start, and they got hot and stormed into the playoffs, and then their life slowed down a bit. They're on the outside looking in. Then you have Arizona, starting to fade a little bit. They're 8 points out right now. It's gonna be they're 5 points out. And you have Calgary's in the same boat. Minnesota at 7 They've had a tough year. Also, they fired the coach. It hasn't really helped. And Anaheim, San Jose, and Chicago all absolutely suck. That's the NHL standings. Some coaching hires in the NFL, certainly for a front office hire. The Los Angeles Chargers have hired Joe Horitz from the Ravens as their GM. I think this is a really good move. He was the director of player personnel for the Ravens. The Ravens have historically drafted very, very well. They very rarely miss him in the draft. I think it's a really good hire. He's been a top GM candidate for a few years now. I think a very good candidate for the Chargers, who appear finally doing it the right way. Bringing in Jim Harbaugh to coach. He brings in Jesse Mariner to be his coordinator on defense. Now he brings in Joe Horitz to be the GM. Well, I don't think Harbaugh brought him in, but the Chargers did, and I think it's a really good move. The Falcons hire Zach Robinson as their offensive coordinator. This was kind of expected. You know, he was the quarterback coach for the Rams. Raheem Morris actually took the head coach job in Atlanta, so he follows him. Kind of saw that comment, and I think that's a good hire. Morris, I said, if it's gonna work, it's gonna be because he nailed his offensive staff and he got to a good start with that. The Eagles hired Kel Moore as their offensive coordinator. I'm not as high on Kel Moore as others, but he's a good offensive coordinator. I don't think he should be head coach of it, which he hasn't this year, to this point at least. But he's a pretty good offensive coordinator if he has the right personnel. And the Eagles, they have the talent. They just need the right, running mates to go along with them. And I think they might have that in Kellen Moore. I talked about Jesse Minter already. He's the defensive corner from the Chargers. He was the DC in Michigan last year. Did a great job. And Harbaugh brought him with him. And the Browns are hiring Ken Dorsey as their offensive coordinator. I don't love that one. I never thought he was great. He was the quarterback's coach at one point in Buffalo. When Dable was the OC, then Dable took the head coach up with the Giants, and Dable wanted to take him with him. The Bills didn't want to lose him, so I think they panicked and promoted him. Not really thinking, is he actually a good play caller, or is he just a good position coach? He really was never great to me. Yes, it's more on Josh Allen for being too turnover prone. But also, once they fired him and promoted Joe Brady, who now has the full-time job as the OC, Josh Allen turnover problems, for the most part, almost went away. So he was a lot less turnover under Joe Brady than under Ken Dorsey. So that should say something to you. So didn't love that hire. I would have kept Alex Van Pelt over hiring Ken Dorsey. And Miss Stevens just hired Arthur Smith to be the offensive coordinator. Obviously, was he fired as the Falcons head coach. I actually don't hate. I think it's a pretty good hire. He, in a couple of years as the OC in Tennessee, I thought he overall did a very good job as the offensive coordinator there. Ryan Tannehill was this guy, was in Miami for a while from our high draft pick, never worked out, couldn't stay on the field. And then as soon as Arthur gets there, Tannehill turned into a really good quarterback. And as soon as he leaves, Tannehill goes back to being that below-average starter. And now, obviously, I don't even know if he'll be in the league next year. Maybe he's a backup somewhere. Look, I know Dismer didn't play well under him, but Dismer sucks. And outside of the ghost of Bill Walsh, no one's getting anything out of that man. He's absolutely terrible. Heineke, yes, he looked more competent in Washington than in Atlanta, but he also isn't a starting caliber quarterback either. So, if they're going to bring back Kenny Pickett, which I think is what they're going to do, which I don't agree with, I just don't think he's good at all. Didn't like him coming out of Pitt. Don't like him now. But if someone is going to, possibly get something out of Kenny Pickett, Arthur Smith would be the guy. He would have been my first choice. My first choice would have been Gerard Johnson, the quarterback's coach in Houston. But I think it's a decent hire. We'll see what happens. On to MLB free agency. Justin Turner earlier today signed with the Toronto Blue Jays, 1 year, $13 million. Turner, he's getting older, but he can still hit the cover off the ball. Last year in Boston, hit .276 for .345 on base and .455 slugging, 23 homers, 96 RBIs for 800 OPS. Not much of a defender anymore. He's not as good of a defender at third base anymore. He was mostly a DH last year in Boston. That's my guess of why he'll be. But Toronto adds, I think, an impact bat. I do believe he can still make an impact. So pretty good signing for Toronto for 1 year, $13 million. There was a pretty big trade yesterday. The Seattle Mariners acquired a guy who was an all-star in 2019 with the Minnesota Twins. Second baseman Jorge Polanco from Minnesota. They sent 4 prospects in return. I feel like Seattle gave up a lot. Like Polanco, he's had some good years. He's a solid player. In 2019, he hit like 290, 295 actually, with 22 homers and 7 RBI, was an all-star. He was good in the pandemic year. In 21, he had a pretty good year. Hit 260 with 33 homers and 98 RBI, but the last year's had a lot of injuries. In 22, he only played 104 games. He hit 255, 51 OPS, 16 and 56. And last year, only played 80 games, hit only 235, a 789 OPS, 14 homers, 48 ribbies. So if he's healthy, I think he's a guy that can give you probably 20 to 25 homers, 70, 80 RBIs. Is a great defender. That's why Minnesota moved him from short to second baseman, from short to second a couple of years ago. But looking what they gave up, So you give up your number 3 prospect in your system in Gabriel Gonzalez. He hit 348 with 9 homers in 73 games in single A last year. You have Justin Topa, who had a very good year out of your bullpen. 2.6 ERA in 75 games, 61 strikeouts, 18 walks, 69 innings. DeSclafani had a 4.8 ERA in 99 in the third innings. That was just to help make the salary work. Seattle got him from the Giants in a trade, and then they flipped him to Minnesota. And then Darren Bowen was another prospect. He was a 13th round pick. In 2022, he had 3.8 ERA, 8 ERA, and 55 and 2/3 innings in his first full year in the minors last year. I feel like Seattle, they've had a weird offseason. They moved Eugenio Suarez to Arizona, didn't really get anything back. He basically gave him away. He gave away Robbie Wright, who was going to come back in the summertime and possibly be an impact on their rotation. You got back DeSclafani, who overall he's been a solid star, but didn't have a good year last year. And then you bring in Mitch Hangier. You bring him back. Yeah, when he's healthy, he's very good, but he's never healthy. And now you bring Jorge Polanco, which I don't hate, but you give up a very good prospect in Gonzalez. You have a good reliever in Topa. DeSclafani was just a salary thing, and then another prospect. I feel like it's a decent amount to give out. So I think Minnesota got a good haul for him. There were as soon as the offseason started, there was rumors they were going to trade him because Edward Julian, who played a lot of second base last year, had a very good year. That made Polanco looks expendable. He makes $10.5 million this year. He has a 12 or $12.5 million club option next year. So, what Seattle was doing, to me, it looked like they were clearing salary for maybe a bigger move, whether that was Ohtani or Juan Soto or something. And that big move never came. So I don't know what the point of them basically shedding salary this whole season was. The Mets re-signed Adam Ottavino, 1 year, $4.5 million. I know a lot of Mets fans are complaining. I don't mind this at all. He wasn't great last year, but he had a 3.2 last year. He still had a decent year. Not as good as the year prior when he had 2.06, but now if Diaz coming back, he'll have a little bit of a lower leverage role. The 7th guy, post being the top setup guy, and being forced to be like their best reliever after Diaz gets hurt and their season falls apart, so they traded away David Robertson. So I think it's a decent move. It's only for a year. It's only $4.5 million. I thought it was a pretty good move. You had the Cubs, the Cubs on Hector Neris. This is a very good move. They gave him 1 year, $9 million. He had a great year last year for Houston. He had 1.7 ERA in 71 games. They got a 3.2 career ERA in over 500 games out of the bullpen. He was in Philadelphia for a while. For the most part, was very solid. He did a lot of closing there. And then in the last couple of years in Houston, he's been really, really good. Very good. The first one was kind of okay. Was very, very good last year. Overall, he's a solid reliever. The Cubs add to their bullpen. Then you have Carlos Carrasco. He's back in Cleveland on a minor league. Was awful last year for the Mets in 20 starts and had 6.8 ERA. I don't think he has anything left, but he had a lot of great years in Cleveland. So he goes back. Maybe Cleveland can resurrect them. You never know. I'm at Detroit title extend. Baseball's 22nd best prospect, Colt Keith. 6 years, $20 million before he even takes the field. Last year between AA and AAA, he had 27 home runs and over 100 RBIs. So it looks like he may be making the open day roster, considering they just gave him $28 million and he hasn't even played yet. Wrapping up, the University of Michigan has found their next head coach, Sharon Moore. Their offensive corner got promoted. No surprise there. Definitely the right choice. Kudos to him. The Australian Open in tennis just happened. Shout out to Arna Sabalenka beating Zen Kinwen for the Australian Open, and then Jannik Sinner comes back to beat Daniil Medvedev for his first Grand Slam title. All right, the Royal Rumble happened this past weekend. You had Bayley wins the Women's Royal Rumble. Very happy for her. She's been Triple H has called the unsung hero of WWE. I think she's gonna fight Io Sky. They'll turn on her. She'll turn on them with damage control for the title. Very excited. I think she's going back to being a babyface, which I think was her better character. Very happy. We had some surprises. Naomi comes out at 2, was awesome. Jordan Grace, the TNA champion. I'm very happy. WWE's doing some crossovers with them. I think they'll do this going forward, so I'm very happy about it. She looked very good. She's in phenomenal shape. And Triple H was very happy with her. A lot of people at WWE were very happy with her. I hope to see her in WWE very soon. You had Tiffany Stratton from NXT. We'll say they gotta work on some of the theme music. Half of those wrestlers when their music, I was like, who the hell is this? And I was like, oh, Indy Harrow. I know who that is. It's not like these people are like, surprise people who like maybe they're making their debut or they haven't been in wrestling for a while. Maybe they came out from another faction. Like it was like Indy Hartwell and people like Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, people who have been on the main roster for long enough. Before that, we're in NXT for a while. So WWE's definitely got to work on that. The Men's Royal Rumble. Cody Rhodes wins the Men's Royal Rumble. A lot of people want to be CM Punk, but I'm very happy for Cody Rhodes. First back-to-back Rumble winner in 26 years since Stone Cold. He'll get the finish story off WrestleMania, I think, now. Very happy about that. That was a really good Rumble. And Logan Paul defeats Kevin Owens for the U.S. Championship. He retained. Obviously, he had his friend gave him the brass knuckles. He went to use them. Then Kevin Owens stole them. And he hit Logan Paul with them. But as he was pinning Logan, the referee saw the brass knuckles and called the match. Obviously, Logan Paul kind of gets lucky. And then Rowan won the Fatal 4, obviously, to retain. Same old thing. Randy RKO'd him, was back to win, and Solo pulls him out of the ring. Why is Solo always so up in the hoodie? Dude, we know it's you. We know it's you. Just come out in your normal thing. We know it's you. You don't gotta hide. And then Roman ended up winning. Match was kind of okay, but like everyone knew what was gonna happen. And Vince McMahon has officially stepped down. Did that a few days ago. Finally, McMahon does not hold any power position. He stepped down from all his roles at the WWE and TKO. He's not a good human being, and I hope justice is served with him. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.